technical difficulty.
It was Thursday night, September 22nd. Yanks, Sox. I think there might be a football game on, but we're not paying attention
Nobody
to it
cares.
tonight. Robert McMahon, Bobby Mack, Mike Lodovico, Mike Lottie, coming to you from the cul-de-sac on the front porch where we like to listen to the beloved New York Yankees. The only place we'd rather be than the Stade tonight is on the front porch listening to Judgy. Mike, what's up?
Bobby, looking forward to tonight. Get a couple bombs under his belt, maybe take a day or two off, and get ready for baseball that matters in October.
Mike, I'm not sure it's the Yankee philosophy to take days off when we're in the midst of a season.
Have you watched the last 10 years?
Cal Ripken couldn't be reached for comment. All right, so hot topic the whole season, and a legitimate debate, but I think we both feel one-sided here when we're talking about the AL MVP and, to me, the Major League Baseball MVP. The Aaron Judge versus Shohei Ohtani debate. Recently, it's been in the news that a former Yankee staff member, Phil Nevin, I believe Ohtani's manager, came out and said, although he loves Aaron Judge, Ohtani's hands down the MVP.
CC, too.
Did he say that?
Come on, CC, you're better than that.
He must be going down a dark place. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you feel about this debate?
Listen, Ohtani, once-in-a-lifetime player. No one's taken anything away from him. He got his due last year with the MVP, and he's certainly MVP worthy. But when you're talking about Aaron Judge, you're talking about an historical season offensively. I mean, if you just want to look at facts and look at numbers, first in the American League in home runs, average, on base, slugging, OPS, runs, RBIs, total bases, walks, and analytically WAR. And they're 32 games over 500. Ohtani's team is 20 under. Again, great hitter, once every 5 days, pretty dominant pitcher by, standards in baseball nowadays. But you just can't take away what Judge is doing for a first-place team. He's completely put the team on his back. For anybody that watches the Yankees as much as we do, for the past 2 months, no Carpenter, no Benintendi, DJ in and out, Rizzo in and out, Stanton, even when he's playing, has been awful up until a couple nights ago. He's completely put the team on his back. He's kind of stabilized the season now. They're playing a little bit better. So for me, for this year, there just isn't a question. I just don't see how he doesn't win MVP.
Mike, do you think it's fair that you're measuring a guy that doesn't get a chance to get up on the mound and pitch, which is, obviously ultra valuable, versus a guy who just does one thing? It seems like Ohtani would always have that going for him when the position players don't. And then when you look at the level of impact on his team's performance and success, do you think it's even fair that the pitching thing is brought into it?
No. I don't. Again, I'll go back to my original statement. What we're watching, we'll never see again. This guy's a phenomenal talent. But he can't win MVP every year just because you're a hitter and you're a pitcher when you're going against numbers like Judge is putting up. Again, not taking anything away from Ohtani. He's fun to watch. He impacts the game in a variety of ways. But me, as a big team sport guy, 32 over 500 versus 20 under when you supposedly have two of the better players in baseball in Trout and Ohtani, and they're just on a day-to-day basis, they're not impacting the winning percentage. Again, for me, for this season, with Judge's numbers, I just don't think he's going to be denied.
One more comment about that is his defense. In real baseball, in the good old days, when we used to care about things besides hitting the ball in the air, defense up the middle, catcher, second, short, center. That guy played center for a month or so, and we didn't get any worse because of it. When I say we, I think I'm on the Yankees. So,
of course,
we were no worse for it, and I think he was pretty good. And if we weren't worried about his body breaking down, I think he'd stay there.
How many other 6'7", 6'8" center fielders have we seen in our lifetime? There's been one or two, but not at the caliber of what he's done.
I don't think we could have chucked Richie Sexton out there in center field, if you know what I'm saying.
I can't believe you brought that name up. That was a bad few weeks he had with the Yanks. I don't want to think about that time.
All right, speaking of time with the Yanks, did the Yanks sign this guy?
Well, it was 7 for 210. 7 for 210 back in April. The guy bet on himself, right? I mean, he's got some guts. He's got some courage, and he put up. I don't think the Yankees can blank check for me. And I wouldn't have said that back in April because I thought 7 for 210 was very fair. It's got to be blank check time now, not only for what he does on the field, but you and I go to Yankee Stadium. What's the only guy that gets up to bat where people watch the game and are in the concourse? What number do we see in the stands, in the bleachers? 99. If they ever lost Judge, who's even the closest next guy to being as popular as him?
Funny you bring that up because when he comes up, it reminds me ever so slightly of the feeling I got when our boy Mattingly came up, because I know I was one of them. Mm-hmm. All my boys were these guys, and I know you must have been. No matter what the score, what the game, how many games up or down in the division, we're standing up when his name gets announced. And Judgy, I think, should get the truck backed up and be named captain almost immediately when this season's over. And obviously that's when we hoist it.
Well, it's tough to quantify, but I was thinking about this. If he's not on this team this year, are they even playing 500 ball?
No.
They're not even fighting for a wild card.
It's funny when you watch the games on TV or even follow it on your phone or listen on the radio. The last time we went to the stadium, you can't help but look at that humongous scoreboard with the guys hitting in front of them and in back of them and looking at those anemic batting average numbers, and you're like, well, first of all, why is anyone pitching to them? Like in an important game? Like, I get it. The Pirates are playing it out. Fun young guys, by the way. Mm-hmm. The Sox, I'm not sure what they're doing. I'm a little shocked at how they're approaching this business. But, like, Toronto, the Rays, I don't know why they even pitch to them. There's guys hitting behind them that are hitting 200.
Well, up until recently, Torres has been hot. He's right around 250. That hot streak got him to 250. Donaldson, who is right now our cleanup hitter, 220. Stanton struggling to get to 215.
Don't let the first baseman off the hook.
That's his guy, though.
220.
That's I know. From a stat standpoint, he hasn't been good probably since the first 2 months. We don't really know how bad the back has been. I mean, he's been on the shelf off and on probably 3 or 4 times just since June. I mean, the kid Cabrera batting in the 6th hole.
Love him.
He wasn't. I love him too, but he wasn't on the team 4 weeks ago. Now he's in the 6th hole, and then the bottom 3. Whoever you put down there, there's a lot of automatic outs down there. So
they haven't been as bad as
they haven't
so-called stars.
But to your point, one of the games we went to against Toronto, we looked at that lineup that was in the center field board the whole game. Springer, Gurriel, Bichette. I mean,
Hernandez.
You just got major league batters up and down that lineup. So what he's doing cannot be understated, Bob, because over his last 56 games alone, he's batting .386 with 62 RBIs and 29 home runs.
Oh, my God.
And a guy his size in today's day and age of specialization, analytics, everybody in the bullpen throwing 95 plus, everybody going to the video to find holes in somebody's swing to get him out. Guy's batting .317. As the best power hitter in baseball, he's batting .317. And then you have guys that play second, short. They're batting .230s, .240. I think the major league average is .243. This guy's .317. That's how much the game has changed.
And he had a hiccup either right before or right after the All-Star break. So,
yeah, when he first came up, if you remember, in the playoffs in 17, he had a little Tartable and Soriano in him. Low and away, they kind of found a hole on him. I feel in the last couple years especially, he's just become a better hitter. He's more patient. He's not chasing. He's waiting for his pitch. So, I mean, Defensively, as you noted, he's not a center fielder by trade. He did it because they needed him out there because Hicks couldn't do it.
Kind of like Donnie playing third.
Donnie playing third, double play against Seattle out of 1 in the morning. I think I was still up watching that. But again, historical year. You back up the truck as you stated. I'm thinking 8 for 320, something like that.
And we got to suck up the
And
back
you got to
end.
suck. Yeah, you're going to get 4 or 5 more good years. He's kind of got like a Winfield body, though. You look at Stanton; he's just so muscle bound. Judge's body's just a little bit different. I think he, by evidence of this year playing center field, I think he could take the wear and tear a little bit more than people think. He's had some fluke injuries with some, getting hit by a pitch on the wrist. I mean, it happens.
What can you do?
It happens, right? But he's shown that he's durable this year. He gets out there and plays every game, doesn't take any innings off. 8 for 320 would be fair for me. But if you want to go higher, that's fine. I'm sure there's going to be teams that are going to – Mets want to pay him, right?
Oh, yeah. Giants
San Francisco, definitely. Yankees they can't afford to let him go because my confidence in Cashman is so bad. I don't think he could replace him unless you give up the guys that you didn't want to trade in the middle of the year for your Castillos, and you didn't want to get rid of Volpe and Peraza and Cabrera, and I didn't have any problem with that. But if you're going to get rid of Judge and you want to replenish your team, now those are guys that are going to have to go, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, Mike, I think we're both in agreement. And by the way, I pledge, if they sign him long-term, to not complain about him, at least, on the back end of the contract.
I'll sign that pact.
Yeah, I promise to do it just like I would have with Donnie, just like I would have if they brought Jeter in to play short for the playoffs here, because, I'm loyal to those guys. And, if we had paid Jeter even another time and he was done, but I would have signed off. I just love him so much. So I think the Yankee fans deserve to have the guys they love in the ballpark.
He's this generation's Donnie. Even to another extent, he's Jeter. Like those guys, you can't replace. They're iconic. The thing that we don't know is, like the Yankees can offer him 320 for 8. Like, does he want to stay here though? Married, he's from the West Coast. Maybe he doesn't like New York City. Maybe money's not a determining factor. We'd obviously like to see him stay for a legacy, the Monument Park stuff, the old timers game, like stuff like that is great for us. Maybe it's not a big deal for him. You know what I mean?
Well, if not, he says all the right things.
Yeah.
Right down to the other night when he hit the 60th to cut it to what 8-5.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch this until the next day, but his interview after the game was, what did this mean to you? He said, well, didn't mean a lot until Big G hit the grand slam.
Yeah, he deferred to Stanton,
because,
absolutely.
I want to win and we want to win and I trust the guys and love the guys in the clubhouse. So at the end of the day, I think we're all in agreement. Yankee Nation, sign this guy, keep him in pinstripes.
Make it happen,
99 forever. Cash, do your thing. All right, we're back. Cul-de-sac Sports from the front porch. Yankee Nation, we're going to step away from the pinstripes for a minute. We just watched Judge get walked on 4 pitches. Real chicken, effort by the Sox. You got to challenge him right there. One of the best rivalries in sports, and they won't try to get the guy out. I mean, come on. We're observing history here. Speaking of observations, we're bringing in an expert for his weekly spot, none other than the Don Father, Jeff Don, master of all things fantasy football. How you doing, Jeff?
I am wonderful. Thanks for having me, Bob.
Well, Mike and I have talked about this for quite a long time, and there's only one fantasy football expert in our world, and that's you. So we're looking forward to hearing your observations, first of all, from weeks 1 and 2 of the NFL. What do you got?
Well, it's great to be called an expert when every team you have is 1-1, but you got to start somewhere. So I want to start with some things you notice as a team from a team standpoint. So the first thing I noticed really last week and week 1, the Chargers defense. They're unbelievable. They're 1-1, easily should be 2-0. If you have somebody that's playing against the Chargers other than a Mahomes, Devontae Adams, do not play them. I mean, they held Mahomes to 230 yards passing last week and 20 points. The last touchdown was a giveaway by Herbert. So again, fringe guys, do not play them against the Chargers defense. They are legit. They have every single level of their defense. They have absolute studs. The Raiders, the Chiefs, neither one of them have been able to move the ball at all. So do not play anybody against the Chargers unless it's a first or second round stud.
Boy, that's a scary division. Did you see the Derwin James hit on Kelsey?
Oh, yes, I loved it because I don't have Kelsey anywhere, so I was hoping he wouldn't get up.
He's fun to watch. All right, what else, Jeff?
Matt Ryan. If anybody's noticed, he hasn't been good since 2018. Do not play him ever. I don't care if they're playing, San Diego State. Don't play Matt Ryan. No offensive line can help him. Same thing happened with Phillip Rivers. They brought him in. He didn't put up numbers. They're a running team. Matt Ryan cannot throw the ball more than 25 yards in the air anymore. Pittman's a must start every week, as I think we all agree. But Matt Ryan, do not play him. He's not a difference maker. The Colts aren't going to make the playoffs, even though they're in the worst division in football. Stay away from Matt Ryan. I mean, 1 touchdown in 2 weeks, and they played Jacksonville and the Texans. It doesn't get much easier.
Don, Father, I was going to ask you how it affects Pittman. I guess you're saying it doesn't, but how about, does he become a WR2 or is he still a 1? And how about Taylor?
Taylor, he's a no-brainer. He's a must-start because they do have a good line, although he was off this week, 60 yards, couple catches, not even really sniffing the end zone, as nobody did against the Jaguars. Pittman is still a low-end 1, I think, every week. I'll talk about that a little this week, but I think he's going to have a big week. He's going to get the balls thrown to him. First week, he was getting tons of targets from Matt Ryan. This week, he didn't play. He's supposed to be back in the lineup this week. He's a must-start every week, no matter who they're playing.
Okay. WR1 or 2?
1.
Okay.
Last observation I'll say from the first couple weeks is I don't think the Dolphins are as good as everybody thinks, but they will score points. I mean, week 1, what did they do against the Patriots? They had about 130 yards in the first half against the Patriots. This week, they went off a little bit, against Baltimore, but don't forget, Baltimore had 2 rookie safeties, both 4th-round draft picks. I mean, those guys are dropping like flies in their secondary. They just signed Jason Pierre-Paul, the Ravens, because they have 0 pass rush. So they got a guy with 8.5 fingers they're counting on to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So, again, Dolphins are going to play their receivers every week. Hill and Waddle, as you know, Bob. Hill was up pretty good this week. Their must-plays every week against everybody. Tua, he'll never have another 6-touchdown week. I'll bet the house on that right now, but he'll continue to throw the ball a lot because they don't like their running backs.
I'm going on FanDuel. Never will Tua throw 6. Hey, I got a question for you, though.
Yep.
About not putting up numbers against the Patriots. Do you think the hoodie had inside information or filmed their practices or anything shady? I mean, he's known for it.
If anybody's going to do it, it's going to be him. But don't forget, man, Bill is the master of shutting down the opposing team's best player. So he did that a little bit in week 1. I mean, Tyreek didn't hit the end zone in week 1. He knows how to shut down your best player. I can't stand the guy, but he's really good at what he does.
Jeff, let's move on. Fantasy football strategy. I mean, I've gotten lucky a couple of times, and we're talking in the course of 20 years. It's basically a donation every league I'm in. But at least I'm smart enough to only be in 5 leagues now. Well, what is your strategy?
I'd say when you're looking at fantasy football, it's kind of morphed into when we first started playing, probably about the same time. It was running back. That's all you drafted was running backs. It's really morphed into receivers. It's a wide receiver league. I mean, you saw as many as 4 or 5 wide receivers drafted in the first round this year. So I'd say start those studs every week, but avoid some of those fringe 1-2 wide receivers against those top cornerbacks. I mean, look at Justin Jefferson. What do you have? Like 40 points in week 1. He had Darius Slay covered him this week. 6 catches for 60 yards on 14 targets. I mean, these guys make a difference. There's only a handful of them, but I say avoid those guys who are going to be playing against those studs. And your wide receiver ones you're going to play, but later on in the segment I'll talk about sit him. I'm going to sit a fringe week 1 wide receiver 1 because he's playing against the stud. So I always say you got to look at who people are playing. You can't blindly put your lineups in and say, well, I drafted him in the 3rd round. I got to play him. For the most part, you're going to, but you have to check out the matchups and see who they're going to be playing that week. And again, there's maybe 4 or 5 of those cornerbacks. You got Slay, J.C. Jackson, Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard. I mean, if you look at the QBR against them, like I think J.C. Jackson from San Diego, QBR is 40 against him. That's unbelievable. I mean, you're completing 1 out of like 6 passes for no touchdowns and a half. You don't play receivers against J.C. Jackson unless that's Devontae Adams, someone along that line. You have to really think about who they're playing.
Don, Father, you know what that reminds me of?
Yes, sir.
This past weekend, I didn't play Mike Williams in my flex. just because I wanted to in my heart play my man Hunter Renfroe, who got his head knocked off. He's in concussion protocol, and he fumbled to lose the game. So to your point, like I sometimes I just go with the guys I like, and I guess I got to start looking at those matchups.
That Renfroe bit everybody in the ass. I mean, I lost a match by 2 points, and he had 2 fumbles.
Kids show. John Father, kids show. All right, what else about strategy?
Last thing it says, look at the over-unders. Vegas always wins. We all know that. You don't have to bet the games, but if you're going to bet them, look at it. But over-unders are really important to putting in a lineup. If you have one guy you're weighing over the other, look at the over-under in the game. There's clear games this weekend that are high, 50-point plus over-unders. You got KC&D, Buffalo, Miami, and Detroit, Minnesota. If you have a receiver on those teams, you're probably going to want to play them. Again, avoid the opposite. The Dallas Giants game. I'm a Giants fan. You're a Dallas fan. There's not going to be a lot of points that weekend. I don't think I'd play anybody other than Barkley. Maybe CeeDee Lamb because he'll get targets. That's it. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, which is coming on in a little while. Ugh. I mean, I'm in a Browns basement. I'm not even going to watch that game. There's just not going to be a lot of points. I'm not saying Amari Cooper can't catch 6 for 50 yards and maybe get a touchdown. Nobody's going to be going off in those games tonight. Vegas knows why they set the lines. Maybe it's 20-18. You're not going to get much more.
Don Father, Schultze? We're not starting him on Monday night? Dalton Schultze?
I don't think he'll see the end zone. I mean, Cooper Rush isn't exactly, I was going to say Dak Prescott, not that that's much to write home about, but I wouldn't start Schultze if I had, he's probably a 5, right in the middle of the pack, tight end this week. So if you don't have anybody better, start him, but it depends who else you have. I'd rather play a Hawkinson or a Goddard over a Schultz.
I was kidding. Yeah, I could see 14-12 at MetLife. Father, how about the start him, sit him for the week?
And bear in mind, I'm never going to say Josh Allen. I'm never going to say Patrick Mahomes. You're playing them every week. I don't care who they're playing.
And Renfroe. Go ahead.
Yes, and Renfroe. Yeah. So I'm going to go over a few QB start-em, sit-ems that aren't a top 5 quarterback. And again, bear that in mind. Yes, you're going to start those other guys. Kirk Cousins, he had a really good first week against a pretty good Packers defense. Really bad second week. I mean, he looked absolutely terrible. But the Eagles are legit. Their defense is top 3. I wouldn't play a lot of guys against them. So I'd say start Kirk Cousins. Joe Burrow, he's got to snap out of it. And if you're not going to snap out of it against the Jets, who are you going to snap out of it against? I think that Jamar Chase is going to go off, but I think Joe Burrow is going to go off. Last year, he would have been top 5 end of the year. This year, he's not. I still want to start him. And last quarterback is Derek Carr. I know you and I hope he does really well. I think he's going to have a good week. He's been pretty solid, but he's still not top 5 in anybody's rankings. I say play him this week. He's got too much talent. Even if Renfroe doesn't play, that just means more targets for Waller. They're going to score points. I don't know if they're going to win. I don't really care, but I think they're going to score points. And sitting them, I'm sitting the old men. I'm sitting Tom Brady. I'm sitting Aaron Rodgers. Brady has nobody they just signed Cole Beasley for crying out loud. I mean, you're getting pretty desperate who you're going to throw to. I'm sitting Brady. I'm sitting Rodgers, mostly because the Bucs defense is nasty, and he has nobody to throw to. He's going to do a lot of handoff, maybe some screens, that's it. And Russell Wilson, who I have in a league, and he is just awful. He's playing against a Niners team who is a really good defense. They're going to continue to pound the ball, run out the clock. I'm staying away from Russell Wilson this week if I can avoid it.
Don Father, did you see the Barstool bit of Russell Wilson on the sideline?
I did not. Oh, no, I did not. No. Explain
He's
it.
Yelling at the team to yell whether it's a pass or a run upon the snap like they're in Pop Warner. Really hairy high school nonsense. I don't know who he thinks he is all of a sudden, but I think the old man up in Seattle did the right thing. All right. Who else? What do we got for running
backs? We're going to start Austin Eckler. He's come off to a slow start. I think he's going off this week. I think he's going to have a huge, huge week. It's against Jacksonville, who just pitched a shutout, but that was against the Michael Pittman-less Colts. So I think Eckler's going to have a good week. I think Joe Mixon, who's kind of been sleeping a little bit this year, again, I think since he's going to have a big week, Jets might score 25. Oddly enough, Joe Flacco's a top 10 quarterback this year. But I think the Bengals are going to score a lot of points, come out of their funk, and I'd play everybody on Cincy, but Joe Mixon. I would play him without a doubt. Leonard Fournette, I think he's going to have a good week. I think Brady's going to be getting rid of the ball quick. They're going to hand the ball off a lot because they have nobody to throw to, and their entire offensive line is hurt. Fournette. And the other guy who was obvious, but I saw a little asterisk today on Christian McCaffrey, who I know you and I have in a league together. I have in another league. He's on the injury report as questionable. Play the freaking guy before he gets hurt. It's only a matter of time. I don't want it to happen. I mean, he is, I think, 4th in fantasy points this year. He's having a good year. Play him every single week. Get your money's worth while you can, because I don't know if it's going to happen again, but I got scared when I saw they on the questionable today. I'm like, it's already happening. Tenderness in the ankle. So play those 4 guys, sit Antonio Gibson and James Robinson. And people might say, oh, that's a big deal. Those are the number 6 and 11 ranked fantasy running backs this year. I mean, James Robinson's number 6. He's playing against the aforementioned San Diego Chargers defense. They stick everybody. Do not play him, even though he's 6th. I think he's not going to finish in the top 10, top 12. A lot of other guys you could play ahead of him. And again, Antonio Gibson, again, playing against Philadelphia. He's not catching passes. He caught 1 week, he caught a bunch. Last week, he caught really nothing. Philly's defense is going to shut him down. He's not going to get a lot of running room. And they're going to keep the ball on the ground with Jalen Hurts and crew and not going to get a lot of opportunities.
Wideouts.
Starting him, I'm starting St. Brown from Detroit. He's been on fire. Michael Pittman, coming back off an injury. He's playing against Kansas City. Kansas City is going to drop 40 on him. He's going to get a lot of targets. So he'll catch the ball. They're not going to win the game, but he's going to get a lot of targets. I'm looking 7 to 9 targets, maybe in it tutty, and 80, 90 yards at least. Last one is Brandon Cooks. They're playing against the Bears. He's had a couple good weeks. People kept pumping up Nico Collins. He's done nothing. Brandon Cooks is the man. I think he's going to have a good week this week. And I'm going to pick 2 again. One of them is that kind of fringe number 1 receiver, Terry McLaurin. I don't think he's going to see the end zone. I'm shocked if he gets more than 60 yards. Maybe he'll get 4 catches, 60 yards. That's not what you need from a number 1 receiver. If you have better options, which sounds odd, play the matchup. He's playing against Darius Slay. He kept Justin Jefferson, who's arguably a top 2 receiver in the league, to 60 on 60. I mean, 6 and 60 out of 14 targets. So avoid him. Marquise Brown, I hate to say it because you want to have him in a league. They're playing. He's going to be having Jalen Ramsey shadow him basically everywhere he goes. Kyler Murray, I just don't like anyways. I think Hollywood Brown's going to have a tough time separating this week. I do think there'll be points, but I think the play for that game is going to be Zach Ertz as we pivot into the last, tight ends. Zach Ertz, I think, is going to have a big, big week. Touchdown, 7, 8 catches, 70, 80 yards. Big week. And same thing with Kyle Pitts. I think he finally, breaks out of his funk, gets more than 2 for 19, which is what he's got in the first 2 games exactly. It's crazy. But and the one I'd sit, I wouldn't sit him. I just say don't expect a lot from him. Mark Andrews, you can never sit the guy ever. I just think we talked about Belichick, how he kind of limits your other team's best player other than Lamar. Clearly, it's Mark Andrews. He's going to have a hard time getting open. Again, you play him because you drafted him probably in the 2nd or 3rd round. You got to play him. I don't expect 8 for 100 and a touchdown like you got last week.
Don Father, do you think the hoodie has been watching the Ravens practices from the rafters?
I think there's been some shady business going on there. Absolutely. If can't put anything by him. I mean, what's Matt Patricia doing? He's not coaching, so he's got to be doing something nowadays.
Don Father, as always, right on. Fantasy football people out there, listen to the Father. Back after this.
Let me see that too.
Lottie Dottie.
My time of year. My time of year, Bobby.
Okay. The next segment. From the cul-de-sac, representing about the Yankee playoff roster, which is always something that maybe us diehards don't always agree on. I think we're going to carry, there's 26-man roster.
Yep, so 26 man.
What's 26 minus 8? 16 or
18?
18. So we're going to carry 18 pitchers. I mean, geez. No. All right. A couple school teachers. I actually knew what that was. It was a setup. Okay. Lottie, who you got at catcher on the postseason roster? I think this one's a slam dunk.
Obviously, Trevino. He's going to start every game. And then there might be some pinch running opportunities later in the game where he comes out, or maybe a pinch hit opportunity, guys on base late where you want to maybe bring a lefty in or go in a different direction. But Trevino with Higgy backing him up.
The home run stroker. Infielders. Go.
Infielders, I would go Rizzo at first. Only because of health. I would put Torres at second, IKF at short, Donaldson at third. I think LeMahieu makes the roster. I think he'll be, if he's healthy now, which is a big if, I think he might play a little third base. And then Donaldson comes in late in the game as a defensive replacement, and maybe LeMahieu moves the second. I just don't know how healthy he is, Bobby. I mean, foot injuries, you played a ton of baseball. He he can't rotate at the plate. Maybe his lateral movement in the field's a little shabby, but I still like having him as a veteran bat off the bench. I don't think he starts though. Based on what I see right now, he's not. We're 12 games left in the season, still not playing games. He just started a little bit of BP, so I'm definitely going Rizzo, Torres, IKF, Donaldson, and LeMahieu is going to be my kind of backup infielder.
Well, we got a little wiggle room with the infield because Cabrera can play everywhere. Don Father, I know you stepped into the background. If Judgy comes up, we got to get off this segment, so let us know. But that being said, I know you didn't include him in the infield. Let's move on to the outfield. We got 7 right now with who you got.
I didn't include Cabrera because I think he's your left fielder. I think the lineup the last few days is their lineup. He's going to play left field, no doubt about it. His glove, his arm, switch hitting. They need lefties in the lineup at the stadium. Bader came back just in time. He's 3 for 9 since he's been back. Good contact hitter, elite outfielder, and then I think you just move Judge to his natural position right, and I think you have an incredible defensive outfield, which they've always wanted. I actually think that this backup is going to might surprise you. I think Stanton is not going to play outfield. He's just his legs aren't healthy enough. He's going to be DH for as long as they go, my opinion. I think the outfielder that they're going to keep on the playoff roster.
Don't say LeCastro.
I do.
Okay. Not Hicks? Please
Listen,
tell me not Hicks. No, I'm with you.
No shot because Hicks is not playing over Cabrera. The only other place he can play is left field.
How about Marwin or Carpenter?
I'm going to get to the utility guys in just a second. I like LeCastro coming off the bench to steal a bag late. Tie score. Trevino gets a base hit. LeCastro comes in, tries to steal second base. That's what I think his role is going to be. He's not going to get at-bats unless it goes extra innings. I do think we have to wait and see. I don't think Benintendi is going to be healthy, unfortunately. I think Carpenter has a better chance, which is not a bad bat to come up in the 8th and 9th inning at Yankee Stadium. Anybody remember Raul Ibanez? I mean, that's kind of the feel I get with
Raul. That's so cool.
That's the feel I get with Carp. I kind of like him, his veteran presence. Well liked in the clubhouse. I think he's going to have some big at-bats in the postseason, especially if they go on a little run. I do think they keep Gonzalez. I'm not a huge Gonzalez guy, but I think his versatility.
Well, hold on, Mike. Carpenter would be 13.
What do we got so far?
2.
2.
Trevino Higgy.
Yep.
Rizzo, Torres, IKF, Donaldson.
Okay.
That's
7.
6. 7, DJ is the extra infielder.
Mm-hmm.
8, 9, 10 are Judgy, Bader, Cabrera. 11, DH Stanton.
And 12
LeCastro to steal a bag. 13, Carpenter. And I'm not saying it's right, but we're the New York Yankees. We're going to keep 5 million pitchers.
Yeah, I don't know, but again, in the playoffs, as you advance, you can restructure your roster. So
can't you do it all along with injury though?
If
we
there's
have
an
injury guys.
Yes. So
and we'll make them up. We have the best injuries out there.
Well, how's our training staff doing it, by the way? Anyway, but I like Carpenter. I think I would almost rather keep 12 pitchers because I think Carpenter and LeCastro play a role, and I think they will keep Gonzalez, seeing that Cabrera is going to play left field. If they had a different left fielder, Cabrera can be that jack of all trades. I think Gonzalez will be.
Okay, right now I'll leave it as Carpenter?
I think so.
Okay, so one side note here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm watching the other night, and Bader's in there, slapping ground balls past the run in the field. And by the way, love it.
Mm-hmm.
He's an energy guy, declares himself the best defender in baseball. But you know what was funny? There's a base hit to center, and he overruns it and misses it. And this is the guy we traded a starting pitcher for. We traded a rotation guy for a guy in a walking boot we weren't going to have for 2 months. We bring him in as the energy defense guy, and one of the first balls hit to him, he misses it.
I hated that trade at the time, but seeing him play a couple nights, I like him.
He's a piece we're missing.
I don't know if we needed to get rid of our third best pitcher at the time.
Well, he really struggled when he went to St. Louis. So
yeah, I don't think he
was
gave up an earned run his first 5 games. Thanks, Cash. But I think we're all going to fall in love with Bader the more we see him. He is very aggressive out in center field. But again, I think that defense is elite. And I just think that's the way they're going to play it.
And one last thing about him. If, the Death Valley is too cavernous for him, too much of a challenge, he could always go out there with Hicksy and pick his brain and see how he's navigated that acreage out there.
How about Hicksy that game? He drops the ball and he stares at it like Knobloch back in 01.
Was he blowing a bubble?
Knobloch was too. If you remember to cover the New York Post, I think Hicks might have blew the bubble too.
That's not all. All right, so let's move on to the pitchers. Now, I've got 5 starters here listed. I mean, that's obviously not going to happen, but I don't see which one you leave. I got one I would maybe leave off. Let's go with the pitchers.
All right. Cole, number 1. I like Cortez in 2 spot, just a little change of pace between Cole and Severino. I think Severino's 3rd.
Nestor, crafty and gamesmanship.
He just reminds me of Pettit so much, and I just remember Pettit pitching a ton of big game 2.
You go Sevy
starts.
3rd?
I would go Sevy 3rd, and I think...
What if he gets a boo-boo? I mean, there's another guy in the rotation. It's just like he's tough.
I think they're going to... This is not what I would do, but this is what I think they would do. I think they're going to go Tyone 4th. I want Herman. I don't know what... I know Herman. I know his history in terms of what happened off the field, and I think... and I'm not downgrading that. But as a pitcher, has he not been their best pitcher in the last month?
So what are we going to turn him into Ramiro Mendoza 2.0?
I could see him and Schmidt kind of piggybacking, like if a Tyone implodes for like 4 innings, 3 runs type of thing.
Or Sevy. Sevy could be great or be out in the first.
I think any of those, like Nestor's the one I trust the most, but I know they go Cole 1, but Cole might give up 2 home runs in the first 3 innings. I like Schmidt and Herman as like the 4th, if needed, 5th and 6th inning guys. Those long guys, like to your point, Mendoza. That guy was so underrated. He was the bridge to the big 3 in the back end. And I think Herman and Schmidt will come up big in the postseason.
I hope so. Lottie, one thing about Cole before we move on. That's 6 pitchers, by the way. As I'm driving over here, I hear, and by the way, I have to drive here. I live about 60 feet. No, I was coming from somewhere else. But I heard a commercial that sometime in the next couple of weeks before the regular season's over is Garrett Cole bobblehead day at the Stade. And I was thinking, isn't every time he pitches Garrett Cole bobblehead day?
I think it's more like, I think it's whiplash day, for heaven's sake. Giving up 420-foot bullets to right center.
I wonder if the bobblehead will have like a neck brace, like in the Brady Bunch. Remember that guy? In the court case there? Anyway, all right, we got.
You're a lot older than me. I don't remember that one.
Took a couple years. All right, so we got 6.
Do you agree with Schmidt and Herman? Got to be on the roster.
No doubt.
Got to be.
Yeah, I'm not believing in JMO as they call him, but
pitch better or late.
We've had worse.
But, yeah.
All right, go ahead. That's 6. Now we got.
Boy, this is where we earn our money, because is that not a crapshoot now? If you told me back at the All-Star break, I'd say Marinaccio, we had King, we had Holmes was the best closer in baseball. Now I don't know where they're going. I saw something today where Boone said it's just going to be game to game, whoever's hot. I don't know if you win in the playoffs with undefined roles. There's already enough pressure.
Yeah, we'll just see who's hot. It's only October.
And I don't blame Boone for saying it, but who do you trust to get 3 outs? Every time they bring a guy in, they give up 2-3 base runners, a run or 2. I thought it was going to be Trevino. He's been okay. He imploded the other night. I like Efros when he was pitching, but we haven't seen him in a month. I'm telling you, don't sleep on Chapman. I just got a feeling. I don't love him.
Lottie, do you think he makes the roster?
Yes, I do. I think Chappie makes the roster.
So let's work from the back end forward. So I'm going to put Chappie for 7. And by the way, I had him off. But go ahead.
You had him off. Yeah. Holmes makes it.
Lottie, don't forget, he'll be sweating profusely after he brushes his teeth. So in a nice windy October night at about 48 degrees by the 9th inning, he is going to be sweating worse than Amon Green
Listen,
ever dreamed.
Jabba dealt with the Gnats in Cleveland. Chappie's fine. He'll do okay with the climate.
Wow, I'm surprised. And I haven't heard you say that.
I know, because I'm not a Chappie guy, but Peralta's on the DL. To put him on the DL today. Is he going to be ready to go? We don't know. I like Loizinga. Let me just put it this way. Holmes, Loizinga, Chapman, Trevino, Miranaccio. Throw their name in a hat. I think they're all going to pitch a big inning or two at some point.
Hold on.
I know we're running out of names.
Well, no, we're running out of spots.
Yeah.
I got some names, and I think Wandy will be ready.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know why. I like Wandy.
Gutty.
Yeah, he's kind of old school. Here it is. Hit. I'm going to sling it from this weird angle.
Yeah.
I'm a weird lefty.
He's got a little moxie out there.
Yeah, he's kind of an old school. He's got character. Yeah, he's like an old school baseball guy.
You know who's going to make it? Who'd they just bring up today? They didn't bring him up to not pitch the last 2 weeks and in October. Britton.
What if Britton strains his lat by holding his elbow straight up in the air like he does?
Like in the Carcione going over around the bases. So I think the question may be, is it going to be Licky or Britton? Because how many lefties do you need?
And Efros and Peralta. So if you want to tell me Britton has 12, you only got, you got two lefties. Britton and Chappie.
Britton, Chappie. Wandy's going to make it because this might be more innings management.
So you're leaving off Efros.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen enough of him. If he comes, I think he's going back on the roster on Friday.
Yeah.
If he has a good 2 weeks, I'm
going to tell you something. I think the Trevino over Efros thing is just like a Cashman ego job there.
Yeah, I mean, they both came in trades, but
Trevino was a bit of a splash, or is supposed to be.
He was, because he underperformed in Oakland. We might have to revisit this. We might have to revisit the bullpen construction in another week.
All right, folks. Mike, you ready to go to war with this team?
I'd be much more confident if Carpenter was healthy and Stanton was swinging a good bat. That way we can get Donaldson the hell out of the top 6. But up until they play Houston, God willing, yeah, I am.
You heard it, folks. So we'll revisit this roster next week. The week after that, we got to go from roster to lineup and pitch and rotation, and we got to see how we're going to get this done. Not a lot of sleep coming in those nights. It's either frustration or elation, so we'll see what happens at the Stade.
Hey, at least we're in it, Bobby. At least we're in it in October.
Who never disappoints
Yankees
you, Mike?
never let us down. They never let us down. They always give us bonus baseball.
You heard it. Free baseball. Back after this.
All right, we're back here with the Don Father. We're going to introduce a little weekly session for you, a little weekly thing. As I look at the standings this morning, it's just crazy with all the teams in the NFL that after 2 weeks, only 6 teams are undefeated. Doesn't even make sense. So Jeff, the Don Father, is going to talk a little bit about who his 5 best teams in the NFL are right now, not projecting in the future into the playoffs or anything like that, but right now, Jeff, what are you thinking for the top 5 in this crazy start to the season?
Crazy is right, because my favorite team is one of the undefeated teams, and they're not even in the top 5. They probably wouldn't even be in my top 10. So there's 2 teams that are undefeated that aren't even in my top 5 in the standings at all right now. From my personal power rankings, 2 teams not in the top 5 that are undefeated. So I'm going to start, Lottie, with number 5.
Okay.
My number 5 team is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are depleted. Everybody in their team is hurt. They have no offensive line. They have no receivers, yet they're 2-0.
You could tell Brady's frustrated.
He's getting pissed off every game. He's annoyed. He's yelling at his coaches, yelling at his receivers. I think what happened this week with Mike Evans and Fournette and Lattimore, I think that's going to really fire him up. I think it's going to get the team a little tighter. It's going to have to, because he has nobody to throw to him. His 1, 2, and 3 receivers are all out.
Who they got this week? They got a tough game coming up?
The Buccaneers have the Packers.
Oof.
So it's two of the goats going at each other. I think the Buccaneers are going to win the game, even though they have nobody to throw to, because I think their defense is playing so good right now. They're absolutely on fire. Defense has been locked and loaded, and I think they're going to take out Aaron Rodgers. And it should be a good game. I think it's going to be close because there's not going to be a lot of points. Again, in my opinion, over-under's like 40, 42, I think, actually. So that's a pretty narrow window right there. But that's who my number 5 ranked team is.
Okay, I feel like the NFC's down a little bit in comparison to the AFC. But again, I think they'll be there at the end. But through 2 weeks, you got them in the 5 hole. Who you got at 4?
The 4, I have the San Diego Chargers. Even though they have one loss, their one loss is to a Chiefs team that they should have beaten. If not for a Justin Herbert 99-yard interception return, they win that game. Again, their defense, to me, is top 2, probably the number 1 defense in the NFL right now. They shut the Raiders down for the most part. They shut Mahomes and the Chiefs down for the most part. And, Justin Herbert's a little banged up, but I can't really take that into consideration because it might be a week. He might play this week. So they're a little dinged up right now, but I think all around, when you talk about quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, defense, I think the Chargers are right now the 5th-ranked team and easily could be a top 2 team, in my opinion, by the time the season ends.
That AFC West is something.
It's
those could be 4 of the best 10 or 12 teams in the NFL.
It's absolute murderer's row in the AFC West, and the Raiders are the worst team in the division, and I wouldn't want to play them right now.
Wouldn't want to play them. 3 hole.
Philadelphia Eagles, as much as it pains me as a Giants fan to pick the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, I think, is better than advertised. He's not making mistakes that he made last year. Their defense is really solid. There's no running room against them. And then you have a guy like Darius Slay covering the other team's number 1 receiver, taking him out of the game. They manhandle the Vikings, who manhandle the Packers in week 1. So they look like they can pretty much stop almost anybody offensively, and then they can score. They run the ball as good as anybody. They probably have the best offensive line in the NFL right now. And they're going to be able to move the ball against anybody. And if Hurts isn't down by 14 points, he can take his time. He's got his weapons. He's got his best friend from college, A.J. Brown, to throw to. He's got Devontae Smith, and he's got Dallas Goedert. And he's got a guy like Miles Sanders out of the backfield who can catch with the best running backs in the league. And he can hand the ball off and run himself. He's going to run for 50 yards a game. If he just avoids the mistakes that he's avoided so far this year, the Eagles are 3, and again, they could easily be the number 1 team in the NFL. And as you mentioned, the NFC is weak.
Especially the East, I think it's very mediocre. So I agree with you. I think they eventually rise to the top. But if we're talking in August and we had the Eagles in the 3 hole, I think some people would scratch their head a little bit. But I've seen the same thing as you through 2 weeks.
Yeah, you probably expected the Giants to be in the 3 hole, with the undefeated New York Giants.
I know somebody that expected Dallas to be 1 overall, but it just hasn't materialized that way yet. How about number 2?
Got it.
Number 2 is the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't like them. I want them to lose every week, but Mahomes just keeps winning. Him and Andy Reid keep winning. They lost Tyreek Hill. It doesn't matter.
Next man up, right?
Yeah, Mahomes had one of his worst games, 230 yards, 1 touchdown. They win, and they beat a top 5 team in my list this year. Their defense is playing better. They're not great, but they're playing better.
Underrated.
Yeah, Chris Jones is fantastic. He's a difference maker on that team. They lost a couple pieces, but I think their line's playing better. They're putting pressure on quarterbacks, and when they're playing from ahead the whole time, but Mahomes isn't a guy that's going to hand off, even if they're up by 30. But he's going to keep the clock running. He's so smart, dumping the ball off to the running backs, hitting Kelsey over the middle, running himself for 2 yards and sliding so the clock keeps running. People don't realize how smart Mahomes is. They will be there. I think they'll be in the AFC Championship. If not them, the Chargers, playing against who my number 1 team in the league is.
Got to be Buffalo, right?
We'll segue. It's got to be, but nobody's surprised. And nobody's surprised at Buffalo. They are dominant. They're not beating teams. They are humiliating teams. They humiliated the defending Super Bowl champions on national TV. Monday night, they defeated the number 1 seed from last year's playoffs and the Tennessee Titans. And those games were, once the second half started, they were done. Games are over.
How about that environment in Buffalo?
Oh, the Bills Mafia is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I can't wait until it gets...
I'm rooting for that city.
I am too, and I can't wait for it to get cold. There's nothing better than watching a game in Buffalo when it's snowing and windy and watching by far the number 1 quarterback in the NFL, and Josh Allen, do his thing. I think Stephon Diggs is a top 3 receiver. Only thing they're lacking is a running game, but Josh Allen runs for 50 or 60 yards. He's almost like a running back who's 6'5" and stiff arms DBs. I mean, their defense is underrated. They're banged up this week, so, they are going to have a hard time slowing the Dolphins down, but I think they're going to win. They're going to score enough points to win, but it's going to be one of those, 40 to 34, I think, type of games. Dolphins have too many weapons to not score, but nobody in the NFL is stopping the Bills right now. Nobody. Josh Allen's going to, he's going to throw for 300 yards, run for 50 every single week, and you can't key on him because Diggs is unbelievable. Tyrell Gabriel's back this week. He didn't even play last week. Their number 2 receiver. He's back this week. Guys just keep stepping up, and once they get that Cook, Dalvin Cook's brothers there, James Cook, if they get him in a rhythm and get any sort of running game, they're not going to be stopped. And I'm with you. Anybody but the Chiefs. I'd love to see the Bills from the AFC, make it to the Super Bowl this year.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but one last question. Which team bows out of your top 5 next week?
Wow. I'm going to say the Chargers because I don't know if Justin Herbert's playing this week. As regardless of how good I think they are, if you're 1 and 2, you can't be in the top 5. So they're going to have a tough matchup if Herbert doesn't play. If he plays, they're going to win and they'll stay there. But if not, they get a chance to lose if Justin Herbert doesn't play. And he's questionable right now, as is Keenan Allen. So,
Don Father, you're the best as always. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you again next week.
It is a pleasure. That was probably fine.
And we're back. Back to pinstripe talk. Really getting juiced up for the playoffs here. And Judgy's 0 for 0 tonight. Holding steady.
Pitch to him.
They won't throw to him. Waka. Gutless.
Cora.
Well, he's a Yankee hater, without a doubt. Okay. So
Has he even swung to? Oh, no, he swung to bat. He fouled a couple back that were in his wheelhouse. Okay.
What a changeup he swung through, which was a great pitch. And then he fouled the fast. You're right. So he swung twice. So, and by the way, isn't that what's made him better? I mean, the 3-2 pitch, I'm not saying it was a good pitch. These are the things he used to chase as a kid. And I'll still remember his first home run at the Stade. I think another rookie might have hit one on the same day. Was it
Tyler Austin?
It was Austin.
I think Austin was hitting ahead of him. Didn't Judge hit the window out in center field?
Yeah, the Mohegan Sun thing, whatever.
Yeah, the food court out there.
Yeah.
Oh, freaking bomb.
Judgy. Pay the guy. All right. So we are moving on to a special segment, which might be the impetus for
Weekly
this whole
special.
show. What we talk about most on the porch is the shortcomings of a certain short general manager who I guarantee must play softball. I'm just saying. He must be working on staying back, if you know what I mean, on the old 4-mile-an-hour meatball. And I could see the double thumbs up he gave in 98 or whatever it was.
You like that.
But this is the questionable Cashman moment of the week. I like to call it the stay hot moment of the week. We're going to talk about it every episode. So you got to be a Yankee lover to dial into this. I'm just going to get us warmed up by talking about his first draft. We're not going to cover every draft pick. No way. Too long. But I'm going to just give a few notes about his first draft, and we're going to get into one of his first trades. Then we'll also mention briefly one of his first signings. And by the way, we're fair. Equal opportunity bashing. If it's a signing that made sense and worked out, we're going to give him some credit. But not right now with the draft in 1998. So I'm only going to talk about the 2 first-round picks Cash got in 98. And the first one was high school outfielder Andy Brown out of Indiana.
Oh, Andy Brown. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Everyone remembers that household name, Andy Brown. Never played in the big leagues. And then the other first-round draft pick they got. Now, mind you, back in these days, the slot money system didn't exist. And I'm not exactly sure. I'd like to, I got to get some confirmation on this. But I'm pretty sure it was the Wild West with signing bonuses, and you could do whatever you want.
I think you're right.
This is 1998. So their other first-round draft pick that year was high school pitcher Mark Pryor, who did not sign. So in other words, we didn't give him enough of a bonus. Brian Taylor couldn't be reached for comment, but I'm sure Andy Brown, who went earlier than him, 24th overall.
I wonder what Andy's doing.
Big Andy. Andy's probably playing on Cash's team. He's probably the cleanup guy. But Mark Pryor, no Hall of Famer, but I'm sure baseball guys all remember. You fans all remember. He was dominant when he was on the field. He just didn't last that long. I don't think we had him. I think we had his teammate Kerry Wood for like a stint. But
A bullpen arm, I believe.
yeah, so 4 years later, he goes in the first round again to the Cubs, and this time he signs. He didn't have the option to go to college after his 4 years in college, but his professional record is 42-29. I know he's got a postseason win or two.
He was in the Bartman series.
Yeah, I think he's 2-1 in the postseason. But listen, with some of the guys we've chucked up there, I'll take 2-1. I mean, Wellesley didn't pitch one year because he had gout against the Marlins.
I know someone that has the gout right now.
The Colossus of gout. But anyway, so Cash, we're just getting warmed up with Cash. Cash getting jiggy with his
Questionable
first draft.
Cash.
Questionable Cash takes a guy that never plays in the big leagues, doesn't make it. I actually looked him up at one point. I think he had kicked around for 8 years and hit over 220 twice, and then we couldn't throw enough money at Mark Pryor. And by the way, we would have kept him in the minor leagues for at least 4 years because that's what we do. And
service time, Bob.
He would have been on the fast track.
Yeah.
I will say, though, in Cash's defense, not a long career. Maybe they had some concerns. I'm sure the math department had something to say about that. We're moving right along to trades. And one of Questionable Cash's very first trades was in 1999. And he traded a young third baseman that we had by the name of Mike Lowell to the Florida Marlins for a collection of household names. Get ready, guys. I know you know these names. Buckle those seatbelts up nice and sturdy there. Ed Yarnell.
Borderline Hall of Famer.
Good old Eddie Yarnell. Todd Noel. And Mark J. Johnson. Mike, do you remember Mike Lowell? And what do you feel about Questionable Cash giving him away?
I do remember Mike Lowell, but a little background on him. 1995 amateur draft, drafted by the Yanks in the 20th round. So whatever scout saw him, and the Yankees got great job by that scout based on that kid's career. Little diamond in the rough, round 20. So they get him in 95. He puts up some really good numbers in the minor leagues. In 1997, I think he was in Double-A and Triple-A, and he combined for 30 home runs and close to 100 RBIs. So, I mean, this was a solid prospect. But you got to remember, at that time, Yankees were a little bit different philosophy than what you see now. Steinbrenner, they were in the midst of starting their dynasty. 96, they win it all. 97, they lose to Cleveland when Almar goes yard against Mo. 90, we know what happens in 98, 99, 2000, so forth and so on. But it was kind of like a win now situation. So they draft him in 95. And then the Yankees traded Kenny Rogers after Bobby, you remember this? After the 1997 season, Kenny Rogers, which he was tough to watch, boy, with the Yanks, for a player to be named later. The player to be named later became Scott Brocious. So I think, obviously I don't know if Yankees thought maybe they were okay at third base for a little while. We're going to ship Lowell for the headliner in that trade that you alluded to was Yarnell. Young lefty pitcher. Yankee was hoping to get, maybe be a second, third, or fourth starter.
Mike, can I just give you Yarnell's numbers while you're going for it here? So Yarnell had a 2-year major league career. He appeared in 7 games, 5 in 99 for the Yank, 2 in 2000 for the Yank. He has a career record of 1-0. He's a 1,000 pitcher, except for the fact that in 20 innings, he gave up 22 hits and 13 runs. He was a disaster, and he never worked out. So I'm going to give you this. They did think they were okay for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But this wasn't Russ Davis. It wasn't Eric Duncan. It wasn't Andy Phillips, or whatever that guy's name was.
It was Andy Phillips, yep.
Yeah, this guy would go on to better things.
Prolific career.
Which I'm sure you're going to talk about.
But, so they have Brocious, 98. They bring him in 98. We all remember the home run against Hoffman in San Diego, right? 99, Yankees win it all again with him at third base. 2000, they win it all again with him at third base. 2001, one of the World Series games one of the World Series that I was fortunate enough to attend. He went yard against Kim the day after Jeter won it, down 2-0 in the ninth, left field, short porch to tie it, and then Soriano wins it in extra innings. Brocious was a hell of a Yankee. That's the main point. Retired after 2001. So I think when they got rid of Lowell, they obviously thought after Hayes and Boggs platoon in 97, we got our guy, and he was kind of under the radar with the A's, did not put up big numbers with them. But at that time, somebody must have scouted him. Somebody saw something. He was a big-time Yankee for 4 years, from 98 to 2001 until he retired. But we know what Lowell did. In 2003, he was on the roster for the Marlins, the team that beat us. And then we don't even want to talk about his time with the Red Sox. I mean, that's how good he was. But I also...
So he won a World Series with both.
Yeah. Yep. But I also think what the Yankees thought would have softened the blow a little bit was Yankees in 1998 in the amateur draft. Bobby, you remember this. They drafted a third baseman that played football for the University of Michigan.
Henson?
Drew Henson.
Yep.
I think they thought maybe he was on the road to maybe replacing Brocious, kind of lessen the blow from the Lowell thing. Obviously, we all know Henson didn't work out, and Lowell did.
Did he start a game for the Cowboys?
He did.
Yeah.
He did. And I don't think that worked out very well either.
No.
I guess the point being is Brocious did his job with the Yanks, right? So you can't really knock the trade. The only thing you could knock is like the success that Lowell ended up having against the Yankees all those years. It kind of hurt. But at the time, I guess the trade was good for both teams, and it was a little different philosophy with the win now type of stuff for the Yanks.
Mike, here's what bothers me, though. Now we're stockpiling guys at positions and refusing to move them. And back then we had the heir apparent to Brocious, who just had to bide his time, play a little first once in a while, little third, little DH, do what they did with Posada when he was first getting into the lineup, do what they did with a lot of guys. And we shipped him off for a couple of bums. And I got to say that's questionable cash at his best.
Questionable. And think of it long term, Bobby. Think of it this way. 2002, they got to make a trade to bring Ventura over, right? They can't solidify the position after Brocious leaves. 2003, Ventura's still with them. Mid-season trade at the deadline.
Booney?
Our current manager, Booney, one of the biggest home runs in Yankee history, decides to play pickup basketball in the offseason. This is the trickle-down effect. We got to get A-Rod.
So by trading Mike Lowell, we ended up with A-Rod.
We get stuck with A-Rod and that albatross of a contract that just all the media fiasco and what. Listen, he dictated his own career, but just a trade like that, 10, 15 years down the road, we're watching this guy put rings on his finger, and we've been waiting since 2009 to get one.
So instead of staying the course with our guys, which we do now because we won't trade them to get better, Soto, Otani, all the names they're throwing out there, I can't believe we didn't get Contreras somehow. They were hugging each other like their last game with the Cubs, and the next thing you know, they're back in the lineup. But like Lowell ends up being a 4-time All-Star, 2-time World Series winner, Gold Glove winner, Silver Slugger Award winner. Was he the World Series MVP? I don't know. But anyway, You give up all that for a guy that did that with the Florida Marlins and the then Boston Red Sox, who hadn't done a thing yet.
Questionable
before all the
cash.
bandwagon Sox fans started popping out of the woodwork in New England.
And that was that had, and I don't remember, but Cashman became general manager right around that time. That might have been one of his
98.
first big trades. I mean,
He got Knobloch. He got Knobloch for some good Yankee prospects, if you remember. Christian Guzman, Eric Milton. These guys played in the big league.
yeah. No,
So that
you're
was
right.
a great trade. But I'm going to tell
That
you
was a
something.
good baseball trade.
But with Lowell, I got to say one thing to Cashman. Stay hot.
Stay hot, Cash.
No, so with his stay hotness and his questionableness, I also want to bring up one signing, and I'm going to give him credit, but he's not going to get really the credit. Is in either 98 or 99, you'll know the year better than I. They went all in on El Duque coming off the raft, and what a terrific Yankee, right?
He was the man. Fun to
Love-
watch.
What a competitor.
Competitor.
Loved him.
Big games.
Had some quirkiness if he needed it. Some unpredictableness if he needed it.
Cortez got a little in him.
He does. A little gamesmanship. But here's the thing with that kind of move. I think when Knobloch might have been available and the boss is still hovering over the GM's, shoulders, he's like, get him.
Yeah.
What about these prospects? Get them.
What about the
Right.
contract? Get him.
Get them. And then the same thing with Duque. I'd have a hard time thinking that George said, yeah, get rid of the guy that's going to be awesome and get a bunch of crap pitchers and not make us any better. Anyway, that trade sucked, and Cash has not been better since. He's the same guy. He's changed philosophy a little bit. I read an article the other day that one of the possible replacements for him would be Billy Beane. Now, you imagine him bringing an actual strategy.
You think he's going somewhere?
Listen, if the Yank wants you, they'll get you. If the Yank wants you, they'll get you. Period.
I find it hard to believe that Cash is going to go bye-bye. As much as we want him to,
Well, they signed him for next year.
He seems to have this bond with Hal. And
Yeah, because Hal doesn't care.
That's what I'm saying. It just...
He could care less.
That's not good. That's not good.
All right, so
Stay
we're
hot, Cash.
We're going to wrap up the Cashman segment by just saying to him, stay hot. Keep doing the thumbs up. And one last thing before we leave the air. Episode 1, Mike and Mac Front Porch Sports, Pine Meadow Drive.
With the Don Father.
On the cul-de-sac. Special guest, the Don Father, weekly spot. Mike, there's 2 Yankees you can't stand.
On this current team?
You don't. Well, there's many you can't stand. There's 2 signings in particular you can't stand. Who are they?
In their history?
No, in the lineup today. If we had our best playoff lineup out there.
Donaldson.
Okay, that's. I was hoping you said him over Stanton because I know you're not a Stanton guy. But so Donaldson, we're gonna play a little game.
I'm ready.
You're gonna be shocked to find out where he rates as a third baseman in the big leagues right now.
Offensively or defensively?
Does it matter? Because he was supposed to not make errors, and he's chucking the ball over the place. Did you watch the game last night? They were in the shift, so he's essentially playing shortstop. So they hit it to whoever was playing second base, who was the shortstop. IKF was on the other side of the bag. They hit it to him. Naturally, Donaldson's going to cover second for the old double play. He runs toward third. IKF goes to pitch it to him. There's nobody there. He was like he didn't do either thing.
He's a $25 million man.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so I mean, you're just going to Jose Ramirez or Donaldson?
Oh, please.
Rafael Devers or Donaldson? Machado or Donaldson? Austin Riley with the Braves or Donaldson?
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting one. Rizzo's teammate, Chris Bryant, who now plays outfield. Like, wouldn't that have been something if we... All right, so Bryant or Donaldson?
Bryant is in obscurity in Colorado, right? Obscure. Like, you don't even hear about it. I didn't even know he's still a major league player. I hear nothing about him.
Colo what? What colors did he wear again?
Colorado?
Yeah.
What is that, purple?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, come on. Come back to me a little bit on the Rockies. But, I mean, that guy all day should be in a big market. right? I'll take Bryant all day long. I don't even know if he's playing third base anymore.
So, well, it's one of his listed positions, but they do bounce him around the outfield and whatnot. And now that, DH now in the National League, this and that. I mean, then you got guys that are in the top 10 like Arenado, Franco from the Rays, Mondesi, the young guy for the Royals. Bregman is number 9. Rendon, who hardly plays,
Bregman's
number
9.
10.
Wow.
Well, just in this year's kind of like, this is more like a fantasy thing, like what they're doing statistically. And then we didn't even get to Justin Turner yet. And another guy on our team is ranked higher as a third baseman.
IKF.
DJ.
That's true, too. I'll take either one of those two guys over him.
Bottom line is,
Bad
what
sign.
a bum. All right, so
Bobby, if you think about it, they took on Donaldson's salary as part of an offload for Sanchez and Urshela. They could have just non-tendered Sanchez, wiped their hands clean, paid whatever it was, and they could have kept Urshela at third base. But they took on $25 million. And what did the Twins do immediately after offloading that contract? Correa for a year at big money. Stay hot, Cash. Stay hot.
Stay hot. All right. So, I'm going to give you some players.
Mm-hmm.
You just say which one you take.
Okay.
In this year's playoffs.
In this year's playoffs.
And I'm being dead serious.
Okay. I'm ready.
Ahmed from the Bad News Bears or Donaldson?
I don't know. Ahmed was clutch. I mean, he would. I'm going Ahmed.
Engelberg.
Tough behind the dish.
You could stick him at third, I think. You got to play the guy at third. That's the only rule.
I like Engelbert going to the left. I like him going to the left. No, I'm going Engelbert.
Leak. Do I even need to ask?
Oh, stud. Hall of Famer.
I'm not even kidding. Stein, willing to get hit by a pitch.
Willing to get hit by a pitch. He kept a great scorebook, too. I'm going Stein.
Amanda.
I mean, it was Buttermaker's ace. I mean, you got to go Amanda.
2 more. Tanner.
Oh, Moxie.
Took on the whole fifth grade.
All day long. Not afraid of anybody.
Took on the whole fifth
Tanner.
grade.
Definitely Tanner.
Last one. Mm-hmm. Miguel Aguilar.
Most underrated player on that team. I think he carried them against the Yankees in the finals. Yeah. I think Donaldson's 0 for 6 with those comparisons.
All right, Josh. We're going to replace you for the postseason. Thanks for joining, everybody. Thanks for listening to us, having fun here, talking sports. And right now we're going to go watch Judge's third at-bat against the Sox. Be well. Go Yanks. Let's go Cowboys.
Stay hot.
Cash, stay hot.
See you next week.